Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is Cornhole Geartalk, presented by West Georgia Cornhole and Titan Bags. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm here with my co-host, Kendall.
What's going on, everybody?
And Josh.
Howdy, howdy.
Today, we're going to be talking about something really fun here. We are going to be talking about the Dozer bags. And, this isn't a bag that everybody just rants and raves over all the time, but I think it has some very good uses, and we'll jump into those in just a moment. But before we continue, be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that little bell notification. That way you get updates for whenever we release podcasts. And go ahead and follow us on Spotify. If you didn't know, you can also watch the videos on Spotify as well, along with just listening to the audio. And so that's pretty cool. Also, we've got this discount code up here that you can use on the Titan Bags website and West Georgia Cornhole, and you can get some good savings going on. Yeah.
And if you feel like you're ever going to forget to follow it on Spotify or YouTube, you can also follow us on social media, on Facebook or Instagram. We post these on there too.
Yeah. Well, we have a very special guest with us today.
We do.
And it's going to be difficult to give this person a full and worthy introduction because if you are a fan of Titan things, regardless if it's bags, boards, accessories, whatever it may be, there is a fair chance that you have had a conversation or have seen information posted by none other than this person, Mr. Lavar Elliott. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Can't complain at all.
We are
Thanks
very
for
happy to
having
have
me
you. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about a few things here before we dive headfirst into the Dozer. And Lavar, just so you know, the format of our podcast is if you want to just jump in and talk at any time, just go ahead and interrupt. That's how it works.
Ben likes to talk a lot.
That works.
I'd say if you don't, Ben will keep on going.
Yeah, so before getting into the whole what is the Dozer bag, why it exists, there are a few things that we kind of have to discuss that came before the Dozer. Now, in a couple of episodes back, we mentioned the evolution of the cornhole bag in general. Like we had, bags started off with it's just duck canvas bags that are filled with corn. And then eventually somebody said, you know what, let's put some resin pellets in it so these things don't break down. And somebody, somewhere along the lines, got the bright idea, let's throw some suede on the other side. And with that development, it brought about the ability to throw two different speeds.
Yep.
And that's when strategy really started to develop, I would say. And so you had people throwing these just normal, non-branded cornhole bags all over the place. And I mean, even for us, we've been making cornhole stuff for a long time at this point. And we had unbranded bags for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so eventually, that's when the professional stuff started to kick up. And the more professionalized bags started to take form in the market. And the ACO and the ACL were given opportunities to manufacturers to say, hey, you can partner in this whole thing that we're doing, and you can start making branded bags for use in our leagues. And, this was back before Titan even existed.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh, yeah, heck yeah, let's jump on board with that. And we only came out with one bag, and it was, guess what, just a stick and slide bag. Had a fast canvas on one side, although, it was a synthetic canvas. And then it had suede on the other side. Yeah, and that was the bomber bag.
Bomber bag.
One thing I'm curious about and thinking about is obviously with cornhole, you have the generic spin throw that everybody has. Maybe there's someone out there you can let me know. But for the most part in the ACL scene, everybody has a spin throw.
We were talking about Chucky Love just a minute ago.
He kind of just tosses
it.
Looks like a dead duck in there, but it still spins.
I'm saying because a lot of that throw has a lot to do with ensuring that you're landing on one side of the bag that you have a preference on. And like that spin, as much as it helps it move up the board, it also keeps it in that, I guess, in that trajectory to where it's not going to land on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And before the dual-sided bags, was the spin throw already fully in motion? Was that already a thing?
I never saw it.
Yeah.
What about you, Lavar? Did you ever see anybody throwing a very flat spin bag before the double-sided bags came out?
I mean, honest, I don't know because I didn't get into actually seriously throwing cornhole till maybe 3 years ago.
I was about to say,
God,
I'm in
you
the
would.
same. I'm in the same boat.
That's about when I started as well.
Yeah.
And you can
It didn't matter
already
till
destroy
Titan
me.
launched.
Yeah.
Before and after Titan.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I never saw anybody.
Cornhole AT, BT.
Oh god.
Oh man.
But I will say, after the introduction of the suede, like you were saying, that's when that the more professional scene started to take off. If you look at videos back in the day, like very OG, old school ACL videos, everybody's bag is just perfectly flat. I mean, you had to be. And, you know, if you got a little bit of wobble with that suede, of course you're going to get a little bit of kick, but everybody's bag was perfectly flat. And now, I mean, you look at it today, like you're saying, there's some people that just, their bag's just flopping through the air, but it goes in now.
Yeah.
I think something that's interesting is I feel like people figured out at a certain point, because the flat bag is what people want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when people were making mistakes and their bag was not landing on the board flat, it would kind of go all over the place, and people started to figure out, wait a minute, maybe I can actually do something with that. And then they started, you know, coming up with all the more skill-based shots, like cuts and rolls and all that sort of deal. And
I tell you guys this when we're talking about as far as that whole flat bag, because I know when I first started and went to my first regional, I remember up here in Cleveland. It's interesting when you're talking about as far as people throwing the bags and they're just landing here and, you know, learning different things. I remember, and ironically, my partner now, her name is Courtney. I played her for the first time just against her, didn't know her. And I remember she went up probably 8 points on me just because of the fact that when she threw the bag, it just sort of did its own thing in the air, hit the board, and somehow found its way to that hole.
Yep.
I just remember thinking,
That's normally how it
wait,
happens.
what?
Yep.
What's happening here? I've been spending so much time trying to flatten my bag out, and these are just doing what they want to do and then going in. So, yeah, I find that interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what you were talking about earlier too, Kendall. Like, somehow the bags just land in the hole from, you know, guys like Chucky and whatever. They're just throwing these weird looking bags in the air, but they know what they're doing.
I'm saying, if it works, it works.
They make it work.
Yeah. They harnessed that particular style of throw and it worked out. But yeah, so you got the stick and slide bags. We had the bomber bag for a really long time. And I'm not sure at what point it was, because I feel like back in the day, I mean, it was Reynolds, us, and maybe Local Bags that was making stuff for the ACL, and that was it. Like, you know, I probably should brush up on my bag history here, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know the initial brands.
yeah, there weren't that many. Now there's a
Who
million.
knows
Too
how
many.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, and so they eventually were like, you know what, we can come out with multiple series. And in my mind, I'm like, why do you need multiple series? Because you've got the fast on one side and you got the slow on the other. Like,
Like, what else do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
That's all you need. And then, you know, started looking at some of the stuff Jeff was coming out with, which was really brilliant, Jeff Reynolds, and sitting there looking at it like, oh, that's why you can have multiple series. So the fast side on our bomber bag, I mean, it was fast, like real fast. I mean, you could almost compare that bag to like a Jekyll and Slide in a way, because that suede was really sticky and that fast side was really fast. So we came out with another bag that still had suede, and there are some people that swear up and down by this bag. Matter of fact, Brandon, Lord Greba, I mean, he swears by the Stealth Bomber.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good bag.
It is.
Yeah, the Stealth Bomber came out as like the second wave of the WGC bags. And eventually on down the line, we thought, you know, we need some like brand separation, because West Georgia, like, we make a lot of boards, and that's kind of what we're known for, is the boards that we make.
Yeah.
And like, let's just come out with a pro line of bags and just have a bag company that we can really just go after, you know, sponsorships and playing in tournaments and whatnot. And so that's when Titan was born. And whenever Titan came to fruition, we wanted to use the Stealth Bomber as one of the bags. And of course, now Lavar, you probably know this very well. When Titan launched, I mean, we had a lot of different series. We wanted to make as much available as possible. And you probably have all of them, don't you?
I have every single one of them.
I was about to say, I would have been shocked if you said no.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you: do you have the OG Jekyll and slides?
Ooh.
I do not. And I'll tell you right now, when it came to all the Jekyll and slides, that was the one bag that always intrigued me. And I think that most people, it intrigues them when they first see it. And I was still in that early stage of trying to figure out this whole cornhole thing and what bags are right for me, which is why the Dozer and the Stealth Bomber were my go-to bags. That suede, it stayed where I needed to be. It didn't slide all crazy because the concept of a fast bag scared the mess out of me. So when I saw that Jekyll and slide, it was one of those things where it's like, man, I want to get that, but that fast side, I don't know if I could do anything with that. So I kept putting it off, and then I finally jumped in. What is that? The 4.0?
Yeah, the 4.0.
That's when I finally pulled the trigger. I was like, all right, let me get me a set of these. So
yeah, the 1.0s or the 1 through 3s are the ones I don't have. Those are the only bags I don't have from us.
Dude, the 1.0s are hard to get your hands on now.
Yeah. I found one guy who had a set. This is the first set I've seen on Addicted to Cornhole in a while, and I messaged him. I was like, man, let me get these from you. Like, name your price. He wanted $100, and I would have done it. I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have. And then he was like, you know what? Actually, nobody has these. I'm gonna just keep them. I was like, God,
That's why I want them.
That's why I need them.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. But the Dozer, I mean, it did act a lot like the Stealth Bomber. There were a few small tweaks, but mostly the biggest tweak overall was the fill, because we got a brand new fill that came out whenever we launched Titan, and man, that stuff was good.
That is true. Yeah, it was all round originally, right?
Yeah, all West Georgia
round.
bags were round pellets.
Yep.
And I think that switch to that flat pellet combined with that suede, oh my goodness, I still love the Dozer.
Yeah.
And I think that combination really, like, it got a lot of people's attention.
So, like, I would say that the Dozer is the continuation of the Stealth Bomber, although it is not the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you found a Stealth Bomber bag in the wild, it is going to play differently than a Dozer. A Dozer is going to have a much more like sit-it up type play than the Stealth Bomber would, because the Stealth Bomber is going to have a little bit more movement to it, which is why some people really enjoyed that bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about the Dozer itself. Who is this bag for? Who is it not for?
Whenever I first started getting into cornhole, it's been, almost 3 years now since I started playing. I started playing when I started working here, and this was before the hideaway. We just gotten in this building, and we just had a table out in the shop, and then we'd set some boards down and play. And on that table, there were, I don't even know how many different sets of bags.
God, yeah, I remember that now, yeah.
We had prototype, we had all kinds of stuff. But when I first started, that was the bag I gravitated to. You know, I would pick that Dozer up, and that's what I wanted to throw every time. I think y'all kind of hated me for it. But that was the bag whenever I was first getting into it. That's the bag I wanted to throw.
Yeah. And I think that also goes into kind of how we've previously highlighted the Dozer, is kind of that phrase we've kind of coined now, the courtesy bags, the bags to have at your house, or if you're new, or I feel like if you're not incredibly confident. I feel like there's kind of two sides. If you're not super confident, I think the Dozer's great, because you get that suede side and it'll kind of help you learn. It puts it exactly where it lands on the board. It's probably going to stay there. But then also, as you get more confident, I feel you can have so much control with that suede side. And so I feel like it does kind of have a mixture of both sides of kind of who it's for.
Yeah, I know for me, that was, I think, the main thing that attracted me to them to begin with, because I feel like you can't throw too hard with the Dozer, okay? And if you go crazy hard, obviously any bag's going to go off the back. But if you're somebody who's still trying to sort of dial in your throw, you can't throw it too hard that it's going to be, you know, going too crazy and losing it. Because I know for myself, when people go over my house, one, I just don't want people messing my bags up, because as you guys know, I throw in my garage, and until I got my beam, I put a scissor truss at the top for my center beam in my garage to get another 3 feet. But until I put that in there, the original truss, people kept hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And I kept telling people, like, no, you're not going to be throwing my any of my other bags. You gotta work with this bag here. It's a lot more durable. It'll take the hits and things like that.
It will too.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things that I always liked it because as I was dialing in and trying to understand, okay, how do I play this game? How do I throw this game? Trying to just throw it to get it down there, I couldn't go wrong with that. Actually, both sides of those, to be honest with you, because even that six side is not crazy fast.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a true
Which
six.
actually,
Yeah.
exactly. It actually allowed me, to be honest with you, I'll put it this way. When I explain to people as far as the Dozer and you know why I think it's a good bag is one, it's a confidence builder, I think, because you know if you throw it, you're pretty much going to stay on that board unless you just completely are throwing left and right. So you're going to at least build some confidence of getting on the board. But the other thing is these fast bags that are out here, I think you can get sort of overwhelmed with the speed and trying to dial it back to be able to do it. And so I know with the Dozer, it actually helped me make that jump into faster bags because I could easily flip it over to the six side, which mentally is always something weird for me because it's the same six. It's like on the Devastator or something like that, and a couple other bags. And I never think it's the same thing. I just throw slow for all bags I throw. It doesn't make a difference. I just throw slow.
I'm in the
so
exact same boat.
Exactly. But it's one of those things where I learned eventually that, hey, you know, if I start flipping and throwing with this faster side, okay, it gave me just enough more speed so I can get comfortable with that faster. So then I can move into bags, which ultimately became my big bag was the, for a minute there was the original, the Air Force Ones, which ultimately became the Grizzly. But yeah, that allowed me to move into that bag. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I first got using Titan bags when, or Lawrence, Georgia, I guess, with the, what was it, the Attack Pack? That they had back in the day was that 4-bag set.
Yep.
And I didn't use any other bag in that except for my stealth bomber.
That's awesome.
Because everything else was always so fast. It was just crazy fast. And the Air Force One was the one bag that I kept thinking like, man, I know this should be something special, but it's too fast for me. But as I got more and more used to using that stealth bomber and that slower side, I was able to move up. So I guess that's my feeling towards the Dozer. I think it's really good for someone who's getting started, getting set up, getting a little bit more confident in their throw, so they can sort of make that move to realize whether or not, hey, slow is it for me, or is it a little bit faster, something I need to go with. So
No, wait a minute. So did you play with the stealth bomber bags first or the Dozers first?
I played with stealth bombers first.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the that attack pack, it had the Apache, the stealth bomber, the bomber, and the Air Force One. And that first pack of 4.
God, Air Force One bags were so
I
good.
know.
They were good bags.
God.
You had those retro ones.
Yep.
Oh, those were fresh.
Yeah, I got those presidential special editions.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a couple others in there. Yeah, in fact, I still have the blue set that came with my attack pack that has the rating when you guys were really getting
Like with the
specific about
decimals.
speed.
Yep.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah. That's how my Hellfires are. Yeah, the decimals. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you're gonna love the new speed system I've got coming up for the next round.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have the numbers, but we're also gonna have like the box that the number sits in. It's gonna have like little dots surrounding it, and however many of those dots are filled in determines what the variance of that number is. So like the Dozer 6 side. It's going to only have just a few dots because that variance doesn't move a lot. But say the Scavenger slow side, it's going to have a lot of
All of
dots.
them filled.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
I think suede, especially the Dozer, it's like we've all been saying, it's great for that starter player, but it's also just a good tool to keep with you.
Yeah.
If you are confident in suede, I love it. I would throw them all the time if people liked it more. But even for me, I'm a slow bag player. The boards get tacky. I'm still throwing the stickiest carpet I can find. But when those boards do get fast, then you can pull that Dozer out, and everything else is sliding off the back, and that Dozer is going to play true. It'll play a little bit faster, but it typically does not get above, a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And for a sticky bag player, that's huge. We were playing last Sunday up at a local bar, and those boards were insane. I was sliding Tyrants way off the back. I was throwing Thrashers, sliding them off the back. And that Dozer is exactly what I needed. I ran all the way out of the car, grabbed them. I was like, look, I know it's suede, trust me. And partner, we started throwing them, and they started playing about like a Devastator on those super fast boards. And so I think it's just a good tool to keep with you in case boards are, the angle might be off and everything's just going and going and going. Those Dozers are going to let you stay comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lavar,
And I'll tell.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to throw in real quick, just one of those kind of scenarios like that where it's good to have it with you because, once again, early days of me throwing, I remember I had the Dozers and we were playing with my first time playing in like some summer league outside at a bar. And I remember the way the boards were set up. First of all, the board, it was just a sloped parking lot, first of all. And that particular day, I remember the wind was blowing against you, depending on which way you were going. And I remember blind draw kind of switch oleo kind of setup, and we were swapping out. And I remember telling people like, look, they always going to be the bar, whatever bag you want to play, it doesn't make a difference because they didn't know who I was at the time. And I remember those came so in handy because no one wanted to throw against the air, against the wind, okay, and which also was going uphill. I'm like, it was a whole jacked up scenario, okay. And I remember there was like, we'll throw those if you, because of course, like you said, Kendall, nobody wants to throw suede. So it was one of those things where I kept telling people, I was like, hey, if you throw uphill against the wind, then we can use those. I'm like, all right, fine. And it worked out perfect because as long as I threw it just hard and shoved it straight into the wind, cutting through that wind, when it hit the board, it had just enough that all that power I put in behind it to get it through the wind, it hit and just did what it was supposed to. Straight in, did what it would do. It wasn't something I was going to fly off the back because I had to push so hard. So I loved it. That day was great. Yeah.
That was one of the big complaints at Spencer's last year. People were trying to throw Ravager Fury or something, and they get in that wind, and if they're throwing with that wind or against the wind, they have to throw it hard to get it to the board. But once it hits that board, it's flying off.
Yeah.
Opposed to that Dozer, it's going to stop with that extra power.
Yep.
So I guess if I'm thinking about like who the Dozer is for, there's two different categories in my mind because oftentimes a lot of people think of the suede bag as a beginner bag. And so I would say that, yes, it is a very good beginner bag tool, but it can also be a very useful professional tool as well. I don't know too many professionals who really just constantly play with them, mostly for the hand feel, if I had to say. But there are some pros that I've gone up against that do use suede bags. And it basically boils down to their strategy, which is the block airmail drag.
I think a lot of the older pros as well, like that's what they got their playing
what
with.
they started on.
They're gonna lean towards that. It's like Cody and Adam, they got their little care package at the beginning of the season. They saw that suede. They were
stoked.
They were very excited for it. More excited than we expected.
That's funny. Yeah. And so some of the things I think make it a good beginner, and just by the way, we only got like about 7 minutes left, but some of the things that make the Dozer such a good beginner bag is because it does stick really hard, you can start to get a good idea about honing in your precision and your accuracy at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like this over and over repetition. The bag's not going to go too crazy once it hits the board, but you're seeing where you're hitting the board every time and working on getting it in the same place.
And I feel like if it does go a little crazy, it doesn't go crazy enough to leave the board, and so you're also able to see like what's actually happening to the bag. You can see that it's kicking in a certain way, and you can kind of see the physics behind it as compared to like if you throw a super fast bag in a quirky way, you don't even really get time to see what happens. It's just kind of over there. It's just like, oh, well, I guess it landed over there. So I feel like it's a very good learning tool throughout the whole process.
The bag gives you a lot of feedback when you're learning, and I think that's the biggest thing about throwing suede or the Dozer. I mean, you're able to practice, get that feedback you need, but you're still staying on the board, you're still scoring points, and you're still building confidence.
So
now you can throw in there when you're getting to that point where you're even starting to work more on your airmail. I've always loved that gripability of that suede side going in trying to drag bags. I think that once again is a nice confidence builder when you're trying to work on things like that, where you're coming over the top. Make sure that stick side's down and just start pulling and dragging a lot easier.
Yeah, and when you shoot for airmails with the suede, if you're off by 2 inches and you don't happen to go, you're not flying off the back. You're just going to kind of grip right there next to the hole. And so once again, you can see what maybe a mistake you made.
Yeah, I've had a couple where I missed that hole, and it just like a magnet hits the back of right there behind the hole and just sits there, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, we'll take it.
We'll deal with that.
It is a very, very, very forgiving bag.
Yeah.
It's a good comfort bag.
It is.
Like,
Yes.
like if you're just you're just not doing well that one day because you're sliding off a lot, maybe go grab the Dozers. You know. Now, Josh, the other day you were talking about some other useful features of having Dozers. And you mentioned something interesting that I'd never really thought of before, but is really great, is the Dozers being a good courtesy bag.
Yeah.
So explain what you were talking about with that.
And so I feel like the reason I think about it is since I've started working here, like amongst my family, like my extended family, you know, when we have, you know, gatherings of some form, they were never cornhole people ever. I never grew up playing cornhole. I never grew up hearing about it at all. But then now that I work here, I'm the cornhole guy, and I'm supposed to bring stuff so we can entertain each other, we can have fun. And the very first time I did that, I brought my personal bags that I bought like 3 sets, and I think the slowest speed was a 5. And it was just real rough to watch. And it's like some people got a hold of it, but for the most part, anybody who didn't know what they were doing was just flying off the back. And I personally, I wouldn't say I felt bad, but it's like they don't get the experience of, oh, I got 1 point because the bag at least stayed on the board. And so I feel like having these just super durable bags, because that's the other thing, like Lavar said, like that suede and that 6 side, it's gonna hold up over time. It's okay if it gets a little dirty. You don't really mind. Having multiple sets of those to be able to play with people who maybe don't play a lot of cornhole, and it also, I would say, I wouldn't say makes it more fun, but I feel like for people like that, it makes the experience a little bit more fun. Just kind of having like a house bag, and it also evens the playing field too. Where like even like someone like myself who plays a lot of cornhole, and I do prefer a little bit of a faster bag, I enjoy playing with the same bags against someone else, especially if they're also new. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of, you know, why I would prefer to have them, because I have a set now. I'm probably gonna get another set.
We've started a co-ed league here recently, and it's a lot of the guys who are really good. They're getting their wives to play with them. You know, they've never played cornhole before, and I have seen more Dozers in the past 3 weeks than I have in my entire life, and they love them.
Yeah,
and they'll get you too. They'll throw one short, and you'll have a blocker right in your lane. Next thing you know, you miss 4 airmails, and you give up a point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I think it's I think it's a pretty good equalizer there, because when you are playing with people who are relatively newer, we don't expect them to get in the hole as much, but the fact that it's staying on the board and at least going to muddy the board up a bit, it's not going to allow you to just run through the games like you normally would against somebody who's just going hole for hole. So it does even sort of help even out the playing field, so that they don't feel like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can see you doing someone who's more experienced doing something that's, oh my goodness, you cut that back, you did this, but at least it slows things down enough for them so they can score some points, and then at the same time not, get blown away. So
yeah,
and what's the deal with like all the original bags being made out of duck canvas, because they're just super fast?
Yeah,
it's
duck
like,
canvas is insane to me.
That's what in the back of my mind. That's what I've been thinking about this whole time. Is like, obviously the duck canvas, whenever you were able to buy them from people or from stores or whatever. But I'm assuming at some point there was somebody sewing pillowcases together and putting some stuff in them just to make these bags. And then at one point someone was like, I'm going to sew a pillowcase and a washcloth together. We're going to have, like, at some point there was the original design. And I just want to know when duck canvas and suede were the things, you know?
Can we please make a pillowcase and towel bag now? God, please.
Yeah. That's been in the back of my mind about half this conversation. It's just...
Yeah. Well, Lavar, you got any closing comments for us?
No, I mean, overall, you guys know I love all you guys' bags in general. The Dozer is my, I would like to say it's my first love. In fact, when Titan first came out, when the Titan brand came out, that was the first bag I purchased. Was so excited to get it. It was a black, I think it's all black. Oh no, all black ones, I think. Black and white. Love those bags until I made the unfortunate, because you guys, like I said, you guys know I throw in my garage in the winter and it was freezing, and I had one of those little torpedo, whatever you call them, heaters. And so every time I go in the garage, I would hold my bags in front of the heater and flip it around just to warm it up a bit.
Oh no.
And that worked just fine when you don't have gloves on and your hands get hot, so you got to pull your hand back. Well, one day I decided to put some gloves on, and I'm doing it. I'm not paying attention, and then I melted my bag.
Oh no.
Yeah,
that's not under warranty.
That's not it.
No, no. So, but yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, I love the bag. Like I said, personally, it's a favorite of mine. One of my guys, Kevin, he throws with me. He's trying to get better in this game of cornhole. He actually has. In fact, he won one of the
Supply
Titan
crates.
Island
The supply
the
crate.
Supply
Titan
crate?
Island box thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
He won. I'm
Awesome,
not gonna lie, I was
awesome.
so excited when he called me like, Lavar, you won't believe this. I'm like, what? So he came over here and we did a little video. But yeah, he's always been a fan of the Dozer. That's one his go-to. Now he's really into that. He pretty much taking the same track I took, where he's actually doing that Grizzly more now. Yeah, love the bag. Like I said, anybody I think would love it overall. It just got to get people around you that want to play it, because I love playing with it. I wish more people would play with it, but it's always funny that when I'm playing in a league and someone does bring a suede bag, I get upset. Like, oh no, come on. Now.
Yep, it
Y'all
makes
can be
the
doing
game
this.
interesting.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm about to lose you on my time limit.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Well, thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, for everyone else who is watching, thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify for more content. Don't forget to use that promo code up there to get you a good discount on getting some Dozers. So, with no further ado, signing off. Everybody have a good weekend.